It's Lisa Jane here, and I just wanted to share with you one of the most profound things I did to really bring myself into a state of inner empowerment and inner strength. I started to identify where I was wanting other people, places, or things to meet an emotional need of mine. So that means if I'm feeling insecure, unlovable, powerless, not good enough, all of those things that we feel inside of us, which create like a void. So there's a gap inside of us where that particular emotion or feeling is missing. So I'm missing the feeling of being loved, and there's a big hole inside of me. And so I search outside, trying to get someone to fill that need. What I'm doing is I'm actually casting out my inner power. I am actually giving away my power to these other people, places, and things in order to get love back from them so that I feel a sense of love inside of me. So you can see how that sort of doesn't work, right? I'm giving away my power to get more power back. And often that doesn't work because people let us down. We end up feeling vulnerable. We end up really relying on them to show up in a certain way that we need them to show up so that we feel okay. And that creates codependency. It creates patterns, dynamics that keep going around and around and around. You know, those loops of feeling that you have where different situation, but you end up sitting in the same feeling and you think, what can I do about this? Like, I've tried so hard to fix this, everything we've done to resolve it, and it cannot be resolved. It cannot be resolved because of our emotional operating system. If we feel a feeling and the operating system that we are using at the moment is to search outside of us for something to resolve that inner feeling, that inner need, to fill the inner gap, we are constantly making ourselves vulnerable. We are constantly putting ourselves in a situation of powerlessness. We are constantly giving away our power. We are constantly doing things that mean we have to abandon ourselves to get that need met, walking on eggshells, not speaking up, keeping the peace, staying silent, doing things out of obligation, abandoning ourselves over and over and over again until we have no self esteem because we haven't shown up for ourselves. And we have no self trust because we haven't been there when we've needed ourselves. We've been too busy looking outside to find somebody else to save us. So if we learn how to meet our emotional needs, what does that mean? That means we find the gap, we find what's missing. We stop looking out and we look in and we locate that space inside of us. And what is it that's missing? What is the feeling I feel like I haven't got? You know, what is that? Is it love? Is it security? Is it safety? For me, a big thing was safety, me not feeling safe and having an inner feeling of safety translated out into a lot of behaviors that really didn't serve me and put me in a position to be hurt over and over again. So let's start to have a look for that emotional need because we really are the only people that can meet that need. It's inside of us. Nobody can get into our body and fill up that hole for us. We sort of think they can. Our mind tells us that's how it works. But actually, that operating system is faulty. And I think it's pretty defunct now, given the state of relationships on this planet. So let's flip it around. Let's decide that when we have a feeling, we go inwards and we look for the space, the void, the what is missing, that feeling inside of me. And our job is to actually figure out how can we generate the opposite feeling. Because if you think about it, I've got a gap, I've got a hole where a feeling is missing. Well, if I generate that feeling, then the gap is missing and I come back into my wholeness, so I'm present. And then I do something about what's happening on the outside. We are trying to fix whatever it is we don't like in our lives from a state of powerlessness. But when we start to meet our emotional needs first, we restore our power, we restore our sense of self, our presence, we restore our access to the power of our heart, the courage, clarity, fullness, and strength of our heart by meeting our emotional need. And then we can turn up as a complete person. So there's none of this underlying agenda, there's none of this manipulation, none of the dynamics that perhaps we've used in the past exist. So you can have a good conversation. You can actually have communication that is effective to resolve the situation at hand. But the best thing about it is you can add to the connection. You can add to the love that you feel. You can add to the harmony. If I'm in powerlessness and I'm trying to get an emotional need met, that is never adding. It generally just creates conflict and friction and tension. And it does not lead to long-term feelings of safety, the capacity to co-create a life and a relationship that's thriving. So now I'm running a 6-week course at the moment with ladies, and one lady said to me, yes, but if I meet all my emotional needs, then what happens? How do I actually turn up if I don't need anybody for anything? So let me clarify what happens. When I want another person to meet an emotional need and I show up, the expectations, the dynamics, the way I view them, the frame is conditional. It's, I'm going to do this for you as long as you do this for me, because on an unconscious level, I am here being this version of me in order to get these emotional needs met. However, if I start to meet my emotional needs, when I show up for these people, I can be there without conditions. I can love from the purity of my heart. I can be present. Now, what happens then is that person standing opposite me feels connected to me. They feel like I really see them. They feel a sense of emotional safety because I don't have any unconscious agendas going on trying to get an emotional need met. It doesn't mean that we don't support each other. However, the support becomes real. It becomes helpful. It actually helps us shift into an expanded version of relationship because we are present, because we are growing together. We're not trying to take something from the other person. We don't feel like something is being taken from us. We haven't abandoned ourselves. We are here for us first. All of me is here. And when all of me is here, I can see you how you really are, not through the veil of all the past experiences I've had with you, right? Which actually means I show up and I have a concept of you, which means I can't really see the presence that you are. You know, when you actually meet somebody that you feel so safe with them, you feel like they really see you, like they hear you, they understand you, and you feel such a sense of relief because you're seen and you're heard. That is what happens when we start meeting our emotional needs. It is the opposite to codependent relationships. And codependent relationships, there's a big range, right? From very toxic codependent relationships to just normal interactions with the people that we love, as even a mum or a partner. Whenever I have to abandon myself, whenever I can't say what I feel, whenever I'm not safe to actually put things on the table and share what's going on in a way that we're going to use it to strengthen our relationship, that sort of comes down to codependency, because there's something going on there where I'm not free to express myself authentically. So when I meet my emotional needs, I feel empowered, I feel strong, I feel centered, which means I can access my authentic voice. It means I can speak my truth in a loving way, not a way that has undercurrents of blame or resentment, but in a loving way, because it's authentic, and its power can be felt because it comes from the deepest sense of presence that I am. So for a start, the communication we start to have with each other gets real. It becomes a state of connection that can add to the harmony and understanding. And we can start to step into this reality where it becomes limitless and infinite. You know, those honeymoon periods where you're getting to know each other? That's what starts to happen again, because ourselves are infinite. But while ever we are trying to get the other person to meet an emotional need, we're not actually in our true nature. We're in this version of us that has a dynamic going. That becomes a habit of relationship, and the concept of us that's in that is sort of flat. It's sort of dead. It's sort of not really growing. It's just looping. But when I meet my emotional needs, I come into a version of me that is infinite, that is expanding all the time. And in relationship, that can bring so much joy because it's like we're on this journey together. I don't know what I'm going to find next week. I don't know that I'm not going to be activated with jealousy. But if I can go, oh, look, there's some jealousy, and identify the emotional need under that rather than just label it as jealous and forget about it. No, no, we want to look for the truth, right? That is our job because that's where we find our power and take that power back. So I don't know that that's not going to happen to me next week. I feel jealous. Okay, what's that about? I find the feeling. And then what can I do now that I've met that need? Do I need to share this with my partner? Do I need to share that there's a process that we're living out at the moment that is actually activating me in a way that's not healthy for our relationship? Or do I need to do something? Do I need to change the way I show up? Do I need to alter the way that things that I'm doing that set up that situation? I don't know. I can't see any of that until I've met my emotional need, because if I haven't met my emotional need, I go straight into my wound. I feel activated, reactive, and I'm looking out through the eyes of my child. And my child, beautiful and carefree and loving and kind and playful as she is, she doesn't have any resources when she's upset. She doesn't know how to express her feelings. So I really don't want to sit in that state of being when I'm in an adult body trying to build a harmonious and unified relationship, because it just doesn't help. And as much as I love that little girl in me, I want her to feel safe and free. And she actually can't do that until I show up and start meeting my emotional needs. Because if I don't do that, she depends on everybody else around her doing exactly what she needs to feel good. And the chances of that happening are like zero, because people are people. People aren't always going to be aware of what you need. People have got their own little activations going on. The best we can do for each other is to meet our emotional needs and be present in our body so that we can create emotionally safe environments, so that we can hold each other and support each other to own our stuff and process it and integrate those experiences and come back into our wholeness, our completeness. Because from there, our hearts become a portal for unconditional love. Can you imagine love that's given, like that just exists? You don't have to trade it. It's no longer a currency. You feel it 24/7 pouring out of your heart, filling your being, in your presence. And when you can feel that coming out of your heart as you, being you, as authentically as you can be in your life, what else do you need? That is absolute abundance. That is absolute self assurance. That is self belief. That is strength. That is knowing. That is intuitive wisdom. That is our opportunity when we learn how to meet our emotional needs. Nothing will be lost and everything will be gained. Sending you love.